Hello, and welcome to the Special Needs Sibling Podcast, where we talk about what life is really like as a sibling to someone with special needs. I'm your host, Charlene, and today we have Natalie as our guest. Welcome to the podcast.
Hey, Charlene, how are you?
I'm doing good. Thank you for being here.
Of
Yeah,
course. I'm so excited to chat with you today.
yeah. I always love meeting new sibs and just it's so fun. Yeah. So I guess we'll hop into it. Can you please lay out your family structure and who in your family has a disability and what disability they have?
Sure. So I'm an older sibling to a younger sister. Her name is Angie. Her and I are about 18 months apart, and she is about to turn 30 this November. And it is me, her, and my mom. And I also share guardianship as a co-guardian with my mom for my sister as well.
That's like the coincidences are so funny because my sister's name is Angela, but when she was little, we called her Angie. Now we just go Ange because I think we all
Yep.
got lazy with the two syllables. But yeah, it's funny when they're also around the same age, so it's just
Yeah,
yeah, it's so funny. Like
that's
it's
so
just the
cute.
coincidence. Yeah, and I was like, oh, it's cool. I was like, I wonder if they
And
would
you're
be
an
friends like in real life.
are are you an older or younger sibling?
I'm older by about
You're
yeah,
older. Okay.
and we're older we're like 2 years apart, but our birthdays are in the same month.
Oh, that's so funny. I love
Yeah.
that.
Yeah, so
That's
it's
great.
yeah, and then my husband's birthday is also in that month, and my aunt it's just that month is just birthday palooza every year. It's just lots
Everybody.
of cake, lots of dinner. Yeah, I mean, when we were little, we actually had like multiple cakes and everything. Now we just do like one dinner. It's just like a big,
One big
everyone's
cake. Yeah.
yes, yeah. But when you're
Yeah.
little, it's fun to have your own cake with your own like name and and all that.
Yep.
Yes.
Exactly. I can't even imagine, I'm sure. Does your sister still like her own cake, or is she pretty good with sharing?
She doesn't like sharing as a general statement when it comes to food. She's very
Yeah.
territorial on her her
That
plate
was
is
my
her
sister.
plate. Like she gets pretty upset
Uh-huh.
if anyone intervenes with her meals.
My sister Angie is like that too. Some days she wants us to call her Angela, some days it's Angie. It depends on her mood for the day. It's fine.
Oh, that's interesting. Yeah,
Yeah.
for Angela, she when we talk about her like in the third person like we're doing now, that I'll use her full name, but when I talk to her I just say Ange like to her. So
Yeah.
it's interesting how and it's evolved, yeah, because Angie used to be how we would call her like all the time. So it's
Yeah.
I wonder oh, who knows? No one knows. But
That's so funny.
yeah. Yeah. Um so for your sister, is she more well, I guess if you could describe kind of like if you want like any fun stuff about her personality or kind of like not the type of autism, I the word is escaping me, but it's kind of just like a general kind of description of where she's at kind of on the spectrum and stuff like that.
Sure. So she also has two other diagnoses. She has chiari 1 malformation and Landau-Kleffner, which impairs her expressive speech. So she
Okay.
was nonverbal till she was about 9. Now, today she's pretty independent when it comes to life skills, like doing her own laundry, meal
Okay.
prepping. I would say she's very independent meal prepping. It just depends if something needs to be over the stove. Like she knows how to make tea, but she's
Oh, okay.
uncomfortable right now boiling pasta. Like there's just certain things that we're working
Yeah.
on.
Okay.
Um, she loves self-care. She does her own hair, she does her own makeup, but a lot of it has been that I've worked with her for so many years to get to the
Yeah.
point where she's very and I don't like to say necessarily independent all the time, because I just feel that it's because of adaptations for her that she's
Yes.
able to do things like on her own with repetition and with adaptations.
Yeah.
And we found what works for her. Every
Exactly.
adult with autism is different.
Yeah, it's kind of like she's become proficient in the sense like she can do it and
Yes.
and she's proficient and like that's fine. Like right, and if you're there if like she
Right.
needs you and if she doesn't then like that's also fine. Like they're like it goes both
Yeah.
ways. Yeah.
Yeah, like in the beginning, I would probably say 3 years ago, before she got her phone, she was very much into a daily planner. So her and I would sit down every single Sunday, plan out her week. Like,
Oh.
okay, this day, it would be nice to help with this chore in the house while I do this. Or on
Yeah.
Sundays, like she looks at Pinterest and figures out what breakfast, lunch, and dinner she wants for the week. Like those are just skills that we've worked on for so many years
Yeah.
with like a daily planner. But now that she has a phone, now I've had to teach her how to use digitally. And we have a family calendar between me, my mom, and my sister.
Okay.
And she likes to put things like, Angie will take coffee in the secret in mug to work. And that goes on my calendar. I'm like, you know what? Whatever. Like, I don't need it on my calendar, but we're just gonna accept it what it is. Um,
Yeah.
so she's so fun, and she loves like the whole self-care. She loves getting her nails, her eyebrows, her hair. Like, she loves to
Yeah.
be all
Oh,
done
that's
up.
so fun.
Um, but she hates makeup when it's really hot because she doesn't want to get sweaty. Like, she hates the
Oh, sure.
feeling
I feel like regular
of,
people, like I don't like that
we all
feeling.
do.
Like, yeah, exactly.
Right.
Like that's just
Right. We all
that's
don't like
normal.
it.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
And she has a job. She has a job at a therapy center, an ABA therapy center, where she
Okay.
like reads books to the kids, and she helps with
Aw.
tidying up the office and
Okay.
birthday celebrations. So she's really come so far since she was younger. I feel like the people
Yeah.
that see her now don't believe me when I share stories about when she was little, when she was very
Oh, cause she was
aggressive and very,
so yeah.
oh, so nonverbal, aggressive, like
Yeah.
very low attention. Social skills were
Yeah.
very minimal. Like, she would have sensory overload in place. Like, she
Yes,
would have sensory
yes.
overload in a grocery store, but last year I took her to an EDM concert and she didn't
Yeah.
stop dancing the whole
Oh
time.
no, my
Like,
sister exactly the same thing. Well, okay, not from the EDM concert thing, but no, she's very much in that realm where like we yeah,
yeah.
going even if we're on the street, like certain streets, right, where they're like, it's like high traffic,
Hmm.
whatever, she would like start to get agitated and stuff, and so that was hard. So we just had like earphones and earplugs everywhere. But yeah, we went
Yeah.
now go to like we went to like amusement parks, like big ones, and she's just like dilly dallying, music's not bothering her, and I'm like, I don't who are
Get it.
you? Yeah, yeah. No, I feel it.
Yeah.
Like yeah,
Yeah.
100%.
And I think a lot of it has to do with, I feel the biggest transformation in Angie's life is
Yeah.
when she started understanding herself more. Not when we were trying to understand her, but
Oh, interesting.
we had a team that pretty much helped her understand herself. Like, we had behavior, we had OT, we had speech, the works,
Yeah.
like you know,
Everybody on the
every
planet that you could
family.
have. Yeah, for
Yeah,
sure. Yeah.
everybody. But what was cool about the team when she started transitioning from high school to adulthood, that's when I saw the biggest transformation, because not that we stopped worrying about like academic goals or
Mhm.
stuff like that, but we started focusing a little bit more on her lifestyle and extracurricular activities and hobbies. And I feel like that's when we saw a majority of the difference with her, is when she started exploring the creativity within herself, and she was able to
Oh.
process things a lot better years later.
Yeah.
Like, that's my biggest aha moment with
Mhm.
going into like early child, because if you think of early childhood when we were siblings, all we saw was like intensive therapy every day,
Yes.
nonstop,
Yep.
school, intensive therapy nonstop. And then same
Yeah.
thing with elementary, same thing with middle. High school, you start getting into like a little bit more life skills,
Yes.
but you also get more into hobbies. Like, hobbies are
Yeah.
more integrated into your day to
Yeah.
day,
There's more like
you
fun
know?
stuff versus like, oh, you have to do
Mm-hmm.
this because for your therapy purposes you need to like
Right.
bounce this ball versus like, no, like you can just try this sport just for the purposes of like trying new things. Yeah, it's
Yeah.
not mandated as part of a program that then is facilitated by a person coming in and like, yeah. That makes
Yeah.
sense.
And when I owned a pediatric therapy center in Florida a few years ago, I
Mhm.
had parents telling me, I want to come 5 days a week. I'm like, absolutely not. Not that I don't want to see you for 5 days a week, but I'm like, if because they would look at Angie like the inspiration, like, we want to
Oh,
get to where
to
you
where
and
she's
Angie
at.
are.
Yeah.
And I said, then cut back the intensive side of therapy and let them explore who they are as a person. So through art, through music. I had this one kid that he would he would tap on the desk all the time, and the
Yeah.
therapists were like, "Oh, we have to do a behavior
You give him like
reinforcement chart.
drumsticks.
This is a stim." I'm like,
Yeah.
he's drumming on the desk. So I told
Mhm.
mom, please, 2 days a week, 1 day a week, take him to drum lessons. And the kid's like a prodigy. Like,
Yeah.
the kid is in his elementary band right now. That's how
Oh,
great he is.
fun.
So, and I
Yeah.
see this involvement not just in Angie but other kids with special needs that I work with, and
Okay.
it's like, you have to let them explore themselves as a person, regardless of the diagnosis, regardless of
Mm-hmm.
all the intensive therapy everybody's going to tell you to do. I am so like, looking where Angie is today, I'm just so against the 5 days, 6 days a week intensive
Yeah.
therapy. And I'm more about like the holistic approach of like letting them explore who they are as a person.
Yeah,
That's
and I
just
mean,
my number one.
yeah, and it makes so much sense, especially like nowadays. It was so different when they got diagnosed. Just like the world was
Yeah.
different, the internet, like
Something's wrong with them. Yeah.
yeah, and then and at
Yeah.
that time, and then even the therapies that existed at that time, that was even like you would only go see people that have been doing it for like more than 5 years because anyone that was under that was like like you just it was so risky. But now it's so different with so many things
Yeah.
and it's so interesting now that like us as siblings, like we're all kind of like old enough now where we can like run our own businesses and like like we've gone to school. Like I don't yeah, it's so interesting like the insight that as siblings we have to give to other families who like didn't have that at the time when like our siblings were younger and diagnosed, just because it was
Yeah.
so different even before that.
Well, and it's funny
Yeah.
too, because I have parents all the time try to relate to siblings. They're like, yeah, it's just like a sibling. I'm like, but it's not because it's not. And I'm sorry, but like
Yeah.
it's we lived with it all through our childhood where
Yeah.
adult
It's very
parents did not.
different.
It's so different.
Yeah,
So
as
it's
a
like,
child, yeah.
yeah, as a child, you experience things like my parents not paying as much attention to me. And
Yep.
yeah, those are things that as an adult, like you appreciate. But when you're little, you don't understand that.
Well,
And you're like,
yeah.
so it's really interesting when I talk to parents all the time, like they're really trying to grasp the concept of like, how do I help the siblings? I'm like, the first thing you have to do is do not relate your story to theirs because it's completely different. Like it just is, you know?
Yeah, it's so yeah. There's so many things that like we could talk about, which like I mean we're all talking about a variety of things, but is there anything that you want to bring up that you would like to talk about, like that's on the
You
podcast?
know, something that's pretty relevant to me right now
Mm-hmm.
is obviously being Angie's sibling is dating. I have
Yes.
a serious Angie's bringing me coffee. Thanks, Angie. I have a boyfriend and he is fantastic. But before I came into his life, he had
Yeah.
absolutely no experience with autism. None.
In any form,
He in
like
any form.
yeah.
Nope. No autistic kids in school. No. And I mean,
Oh.
he's
Okay.
none. He's 14 years older than me. So, like,
Okay.
even how he grew up in school is a little bit
A
different. I think
different.
special education was very different. Yep.
Yeah.
So, but having to explain, and you're married, so
Yes.
you understand this, but
Yes.
having
Yes.
to explain the responsibilities that not that you have to have as a sibling, but that you want to have, like
Yeah.
what you would like your involvement to be.
Yep.
There's no one talking about this. Like,
No.
hey, how do you have a conversation with your significant other or
Oh yeah.
your
No one knows.
partner
Nobody does.
on preparing to caretake? Like we have all these resources, like when you have a kid, here's how you
Oh,
save up for their college, or but what about the resources of if you're a sibling, how do you prepare financially and lifestyle wise to
well,
care
and
for
then
your
and then
sibling?
yeah, and what
There's
it's
nothing.
like how do you have that conversation, right? And it's so funny because I think probably within the last I went to a bookstore like in the last couple of weeks, and it's just like there's books on like how you raise cats and dogs, right?
I
And
know.
it's like but you and it's like no one knows how to have this conversation, and it's so interesting because I'm thinking back of when we were dating because we started to date around the time that my parents were applying for conservatorship, and then I was like part of that process, right?
Mm,
And so clearly
got
like
it.
you're gonna talk about just because like it's happening in real time so you can't avoid it, and it's funny
Yeah.
because it's like for me, and I don't know what your experience is or even other people's, but it's like I knew that I was like I just have to be upfront with it. Like I can't avoid this. I'm not gonna like
No.
beat around the bush. Like I'm just like I'm gonna come out of the gate and be like, this is what's happening. This is what your life is gonna be like. So if we're gonna get married, like by the way, this is just what's gonna happen, right? And it's very
Yeah.
just like all on the table because you can't. It's not like oh, by the way, I have this like weird habit of doing these things when I watch movies. It's not a small, minuscule thing. This is like life altering. Like it
Yeah.
affects so much. Yeah.
Yeah, and my boyfriend even has two kids of his own.
Mm-hmm.
So you're talking two kids plus a sibling.
Plus, yeah,
And it's hard because it's like, okay, we take care of the girls on, the co-parenting
mm-hmm,
schedule. And I'm
yeah,
like, I kind of have that with my mom too. Like, so I'm balancing both right now, and I don't even have a biologically my own child. So I'm
yeah.
like,
That's so hard. Like
that's different.
already. Yeah.
Yeah. And it's it feels lonely. It feels like I
Yeah.
can't talk to somebody that understands it.
Yeah.
Like I can talk to another sibling, but a lot of the times, like they're adults with siblings, like they take over like no one teaches us the guardianship process. Like I just learned
No.
about guardianship because I was like, here's your option. I'm like, oh, okay. But then
Yeah.
you start thinking in
Yeah.
your head financially, like you start thinking of,
Yep.
what type of job am I going to have that's flexible, because this is
Mm-hmm.
my life as a caretaker. We've been caretakers since we were younger, and that's
Yeah.
what parents don't understand. Parents start to become the caretaker when they become a parent, but a sibling is a caretaker from the moment they hear their sibling's diagnosis,
Yeah. Or even when you
like their
notice it
whole life.
too. Yeah.
Yeah, their whole
Yeah.
life. So, I think there's a lot of the gap that we have is a lot of
Mm-hmm.
opportunity for siblings to step up and talk about these things, and I'm
Yes.
really excited to connect to other siblings like you, because to be honest, it feels lonely. Like I get people all the time saying
Mm-hmm.
it's your sister's not your responsibility. I'm like, if I hear that
You
one
don't.
more time,
That's. Yeah. I was like,
like
I don't. We're not
I'm going to a
friends.
smash room. I'm going to a smash
Yes.
room and
Yes.
I'm gonna break shit because I'm
Yeah,
angry. Like
oh,
stop
oh,
saying that.
100%. I already feel it. Like I haven't heard that in a long time for
I hear it all the
to me,
time.
but I once you said it, I already my whole body's like not. It's ready to destroy things already. Like,
Well, because you
yeah,
grow up as a fighter. You grow up. I
yeah.
just made a reel about it today.
Oh
I'm like,
yeah.
you grow up as a fighter, you grow up as an advocate, and I made the reel actually that said, if you're dating an autism sibling, like things you
Oh
should
okay.
know.
Yeah.
And one of them I said, do not try to change them being a caretaker. That is who their identity is. Like that's their identity since they were young. Don't try to
Oh
change that.
man, I just yeah.
But it gives us such beauty into things. Like I feel that
Mm-hmm.
autism siblings and relationships, they're very about unconditional love. They're very about
Yes.
understanding. We will
Yep.
overanalyze every
A
situation
hundred
because
percent. 200%. Every day, yeah, every day of
yeah,
my life, every minute for that
yeah.
matter. Like,
But it's because that's how our minds have processed things since we were
mm-hmm.
younger, because we saw our parents trying to figure out the pieces for our siblings. They weren't
Yeah.
able to communicate, or
Yep.
or they were having sensory overload, and we were trying to figure it out. And
Yep.
siblings have been wired to think that way and to feel that
Yes.
way.
Yeah.
So, there's just I it's my goal to advocate. I'm as an autism home specialist, like it is my goal to educate not just by the real same design of homes, but
Mm-hmm.
by the lifestyle inside of it. Like what conversations should you be
Yeah.
having with siblings? What conversations should you be having with a spouse? What
Yeah.
um I'm actually giving a presentation this fall specifically on special needs siblings and what topics on each life stage should be discussed and
Oh,
what parents should
interesting.
consider. Yeah, so I'm
Yeah.
breaking down the life stages and focusing on that. And as an adult, like my biggest thing right now is the dating and the financials.
Yeah.
Um, there's a great network that I've connected to called Special Abilities Network. They're actually financial planners that specialize in special needs families.
Okay.
And they teach you so much as far as like trust and all these things. But
Yeah.
it's it's overwhelming. It feels really lonely.
Yeah.
And even when we get into like the parent group, we still feel out of place.
it's yeah. It's because like yeah, it's so hard because like I can't even describe it, but I can feel all of these things, right? Because it's like, and that's what's so hard when I talk to parents. Sometimes this is not every parent, but there's just a large majority that's kind of like I understand what you're trying to say to me, and that's fine, but like, that's not what I need to hear right now, right? Like, I understand
Yeah.
your life is hard, and that's fine, and that's valid, but like, I can't do the, like, kind of what you're saying, right? Like, I don't need to hear your version, and I also don't need to hear that my life is easier than yours. I don't need to hear that you're like, oh, you're so proud of your kids, but like your life is hard. I'm like, no, like their life is just as hard as yours in a different capacity that you don't understand, but you can't mitigate that your life is better because we exist in it. Right?
Yeah.
Like our life is hard because of you and our siblings, right?
Yeah.
Your life is hard because of them and maybe not us, but like that parent child dynamic, the other difference, like in addition to kind of what we're talking about, right, is like they become a parent like when they become parents, right, when you have your child, whatever, and we're parents forever, but like it's also this thing where not only are we parents, but like if my parents or other siblings parents decide to interact with them in a way that treats them like adults when they're 5, that's gonna affect like how they show up as adults, and that's not healthy, right? Like
Right.
there's more bad consequences than good at that point, and you get all these like, oh, you're so mature for your age, or oh, like you're such an
Yeah.
adult, like I'm so that's the thing I get all the time, like, oh, you're so
Yeah.
mature for your age, and I'm like, I'm better about it now. I went through a very large phase where I'm like, that is the last thing I ever want to hear you say, because it puts me in this bubble, in this box of like, then what am I? Do I not matter as me, right? Because you're just saying, oh, you're so grown up, like go be an adult. Like, well, no, I don't want to be an adult. I've been an adult my whole life, right? I've looked
Yeah.
after my sister. I've like the tantrums, the oversensory, all these things. It's like I deserve to not have to watch her when I'm 10, and I deserve to go
Yeah.
play with my friends, but I couldn't for
Yeah.
various reasons. But right, that's not fair to me. So now it's like now I'm an actual adult of age, but I'm doing things like I want to go color on the floor, right? Because it's like I didn't get to
Yeah.
do that. And
One of the, it's so funny you're saying that because literally on the reel I made today, one of the other things
yeah.
I put on there was if you help them connect to their inner child, they will fall in love with you.
Oh, see,
Because, yeah. So,
brilliant. Yeah.
and it's true because,
Yeah.
my boyfriend, I hang out
Yeah.
with older people, but also because, since I was younger, I didn't play with my friends after school. I didn't play with
Yeah.
my friends after school. I actually went to therapy sessions, or I
Right.
didn't
Yep.
spend summer camps. I went to my sister's summer camps to help her. So like I don't
Yeah.
regret any of that, but there are still those childhood memories that, like, as
Mm-hmm.
much as my parents worked so hard to still try to give me, I still missed out on being a kid. Like
Yes.
I missed out on acting, like acting out, like, you know what I
Yep.
mean?
Yep. No,
Because
I exactly
you
know
don't
what you're
want,
talking about. Yes.
yeah.
Yes.
So as an adult, like, you don't act out because you've been taught not, like,
Yeah. You're
you just
already an
don't want to.
adult. Yeah. If you do it, then
Right.
people think you're insane, and you're like, yeah, it's stupid. Like, well, no.
Right.
Like,
Right.
yeah.
Like
Yeah.
so my boyfriend, I'm so grateful for him because he helps me connect to that inner child. He's 14 years younger than
Yeah.
me, but we joke around all the time, like the mentality just kind of meets somewhere in the middle at some, you know what I mean? Like with the
Yeah.
age
Oh
difference.
no. My husband.
But
We're 8 years apart, and so
yeah.
when people meet us, like when they don't know us, they think we're like the same age. So then
Yeah.
once they learn how old one of us is, or they learn about the age, they're like, everyone's always surprised, right? But he in the same way, he helps me connect to like, yeah,
Yeah.
like my inner child, and just like to have fun and to laugh and make fun of yourself, and that's like,
Yeah.
it's okay to just like be a kid even though you're adult. He's just a big kid, really, like, but I love it
Yeah.
because that's what matters to me. Like that's it's such a big part of it that like I didn't realize like the importance of it, I guess, until like as like we're talking about, I'm like, oh yeah, like that is it's a very big factor just in like how we communicate, and like how you
Yeah.
have life perspective. Yeah.
And that's why too, like, I'm so passionate about the home setting is
Mm-hmm.
because there's more than just the child with special needs. There's the parent as a couple,
Mm-hmm.
there's the sibling, there's other family members.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, it's funny because I think siblings are some of the most special people that I've ever met.
Yes.
Um, we've had a lot of struggle. We've had a lot,
Mm-hmm.
quote unquote, taken away from us, but we've also been given some of the best things that I don't feel other siblings get to have. Like for siblings, I feel that we are given the best gifts. I went out of
Mm-hmm.
town and it was our first big trip. My boyfriend, his two daughters, they are
Yeah.
17 and 12, and
Okay.
Angie. And I'm like, okay, this
Oh
is like
man.
our first big trip.
Yeah. That's there's
And
so many like that's so exciting and also like I'm like my anxiety is also like oh shoot like like I yeah both of those things.
they're they're great girls. They're great. But it's
Awesome.
so funny because
Mm-hmm.
I haven't observed sibling relationships in a really long time since high school, since like
Okay.
my friends and their siblings.
Oh yeah yeah okay.
And the little things that they bicker about, I'm like fascinated by because I'm like, we just never had that. Like the whole, like, when I look at the girls and I see them bickering about something, it's fascinating to me because I say to myself, I've
Yeah.
never had that. Or like the conversations of them, the little one joking with the older one saying, oh, your your ex-boyfriend this, or who you're dating this. And I'm like, I just never had that. Like Angie and I would just talk
Yeah.
about Disney movies and art and all these things. So it was really funny to just kind of get that perspective again. But it made me realize that I value my relationship with my sister a lot more than most siblings do. Like a lot of siblings kind of
Oh
take each other for
interesting.
granted where we don't, you know?
Yeah. Yeah yeah.
Like I feel that we're very proud of our older. There's just it's a different dynamic, and one's not necessarily better than the other. It's just very different perspective. Sorry, that
Yeah,
are
like
shown.
that it's interesting because I remember like at some point it was probably a couple years ago and I was talking to a friend and so she's one of four I believe, so she's
Okay.
number two, and so and they're all like typical people and stuff like that, and so but they're all grown and whatever. But it was interesting
Okay.
because she was like I was talking about siblings or something and she says to me, oh, you're really not missing a whole lot. And I was like, really? She's like, yeah, like imagine you fighting with your parents except people that are your age.
Yeah.
And I was like, and from that description, I'm like, that sounds pretty terrible. I mean, based on how she described it
Yeah.
that way. I don't know if it's really like that for everybody,
Right.
but it was kind of
Right.
an interesting, like, yeah, from her standpoint, I was like, oh, that's a different thing. But yeah, I was like, I can't even fight with Angela if I wanted to. Because, like,
Yeah.
and even I remember when we were little, I would try to get her to fight with me. Not that that was successful at all, because basically I just made her cry, but then I made me cry. So I'm like, okay, obviously that's backfiring. Like that's not the way to do this at
Yeah.
all. But yeah,
Right.
we like can't fight, and not because we are incapable. It's just not what you do. Like that's not how our relationship works at all.
Right. Well,
Yeah.
it's also one of those things that um I don't know. There's just so much we can go into the rabbit hole of, but I feel like as adults, there needs to be something, there needs to be advocacy around the topic of becoming an adult,
Mm-hmm.
potentially becoming your sibling's caretaker, and
Yes.
how to relay that message to your partner. And, like
Yes.
in my situation, how do you relay that to your partner's current kids? Like
Oh, I have
it's
no
not just
idea how to use.
you.
Yeah.
It's not just you that I have to look after. It's also my sister. So there's I think that there's a lot of opportunities for us to talk about this. There's a lot of opportunities for us to advocate about this. It's just
Mm.
awareness. And I think because autism and special needs were very different when our siblings were diagnosed in the 90s as of today.
Yes.
Like it's very, very different.
Yeah.
And there's been a lot of advocacy, but a lot of it has been from parents, and siblings are now emerging and they're saying, hey, like we have a
Yes.
voice too. Hey, we have a different perspective. And they're utilizing social media. Like there's a lot of sibling accounts that I follow that's more of like, sibling interactions, which is beautiful, but like we need as siblings to start thinking about advocacy from our perspective, because that's how we're going to help the future generations not
Hmm.
go through the same things we did.
Yeah, and it's so fascinating to me. Like as I've gotten to meet more siblings, like to be on this podcast, right? Because I will search through like social media in various forms, and I'll and then I'll meet X amount, and then they'll connect me to like their actual friends, which is very helpful instead of me just perusing the internet forever. Like so it's been so interesting to like to meet other people who are trying to do the same thing, because I feel like
Yeah.
it's already lonely being a sibling and its own whole story with that, but it's also this thing where like navigating this space also like it feels lonely too. Like yes, like I've found other siblings and it's been great, and I always feel good like when we talk, and we're gonna be I probably like we're building like kind of more like lifetime long relationships, right? Because as siblings, like the struggles are going to be similar on some level, but it still feels lonely because I feel like we're all fighting this fight, but like against such a large current of people who are like siblings should feel like this. And it's you
Right.
like it is so hard because for so many years, right, there have been people who are in support of siblings, whether they're parents or cousins or guardian, whatever, right? They have their own relationship to people with disabilities and the family members affected by it. But like, it's so hard because it's like, it's like the only people who can speak on behalf of siblings properly are siblings, and that's been like the
Right.
struggle. It's like I and it's been this interesting thing with this podcast, right? Because I understand parents listen to it, and that's fine. Like I don't that's their choice, right? But it's really like I'm trying to just find other siblings because it's like that is the those are the people who matter, right? And I'm not saying parents don't matter, but it's like siblings matter more than we all realize. And it's like, right, we're gonna be the ones taking care of them when we get old, right? We're the ones who have been affected by like our parents' mental health and our siblings' disabilities at the same time, right? We're the ones having
Yeah.
to have these hard conversations with our friends, our neighbors, the people, like all the housing people, our significant others, right? Like we're the ones who are going through all these pain points, and it's like we people don't understand those pain points at all because they're not us, right? And they don't need to be us, but like why are they trying to force other thoughts onto us where you should feel this way? Like, well, no, like you don't understand this pain that I have, and you don't get it, and it's so
Yeah.
hard, and it's yeah, and so I'm very grateful for everyone that's been able to like find the podcast, and some of them have messaged me, some of them haven't, but it's great just to know that like that it's and it's so hard because it's like it feels so lonely, but like it is a good thing, but it still feels lonely, but it's still a good thing. Like it's this like constant hamster
Yeah.
wheel that I'm going through because it's like it's so hard to do
Yeah.
it. Yeah.
Well, and the thing is too, siblings are probably some of the most, like I said, special people that I've ever met. We
Yeah.
have a lot of, and I think you said it best, I didn't expect my dad to leave. Like I
Yeah.
am still angry to this day that I have my mom with health issues that I don't, publicize on social media,
Mhm.
but I have that. I have my sister, I have the girls, I have
Yeah.
my significant other, I have my career. And
Yeah.
sometimes I feel like I'm a running chicken, but at the same
Yes.
time I'm like, my kick-ass autism sibling journey prepared me for this shit. Like
Yeah.
I kind of feel
Exactly.
strong and like a
Yeah.
warrior, like I can handle this shit. Like this is nothing, like I've dealt with tantrums in the middle of a mall. I can
Yep.
do this. Like
Yep.
so there's a little bit, and
Yeah.
there's a lot of fire that we have within us. I
Yeah.
literally have clients, like my clients tell me all the time, like we get exhausted just looking at your social media because you do so much in a day. And I'm like, I've been preparing for this my whole life. Like,
Yeah.
that's why I can do this. You know what I mean? um, but also, with siblings, I think there's a missing piece that parents don't realize all the time. Like, I'll go on social media and
Mm-hmm.
I see a lot of parents like showcasing the special needs sibling, but not the other siblings. And I'm like,
Yes.
that's
Yep.
not cool. You know what I mean? Like, and I don't think parents do
Yeah.
it intentionally. I
I
think they do it like, I, I told my boyfriend the other night,
yeah.
we were sitting outside. It was actually a meteor shower. We went to this like really cool Airbnb, watched the meteor shower.
Oh, that's
And
awesome.
yeah, and we were just like really having deep conversations. And I said,
Yeah.
I spent my life feeling like I wasn't seen. And he's like, what are you talking about? I said, I spent my life
Yep.
only feeling seen when I'm in the shadow of my sister helping autism siblings, but nothing else. Like,
Yep.
and I still feel that today. Like, I'm 32, I'm
Yep.
31, and I'm not married yet. I don't have kids,
Yeah.
but the only way I'm being seen is, I feel like the advocacy I do in the autism community, like that's what people know me as. And yeah, that's been my identity for a really long time. But then some people say, oh, maybe you have an identity problem. I'm like, no, you
Oh
have an
my
identity
gosh.
problem.
Yeah, that's
I'm
that is oh my
I'm
gosh, that's what they
confident in,
said?
yeah.
Oh
And I'm
jeez.
like, I'm confident like in what I do every day. Like, I'm passionate about what I do every day. Yeah, it sucked growing up a little bit, not understanding, but like,
Yeah.
you can either do two things with that. You can live in anger because of it, or you can live in advocacy. And I chose
Yeah.
advocacy. I don't want to blame my parents, because at the end of the day, back in the 90s, our parents didn't have a playbook. Our parents didn't have people educating them about how to help the siblings understand autism. We still
Yeah.
don't have that today.
Yeah, we
So
don't.
we as siblings,
It's better,
we
but it's
can't,
not. Yeah, it's better not, but not
eh,
there.
but it's still being taught by parents. And I'm like, this is
Yes.
ridiculous. We need more siblings to step up and talk about this, because, yeah,
Yeah.
we can say all the time, like, oh, parents aren't relatable. They're not, but they are the only ones trying. I don't,
Yeah.
we need as siblings
Interesting.
we as siblings need to put our foot down and say, hey, like, I am willing to talk about this. I'm willing to advocate. I'm willing to take out my time and day to make this change, because parents are going to keep doing it because that's the only ones actually trying to do it, you know?
Yeah.
So it's like, I get it. And my parents would try to take me to sibling groups when I was younger, and they were like, okay, color your feelings. I'm like, really? Color my feelings? I
Exactly.
don't want, but I can't be mad at it because at least they're trying.
Yeah.
But I just didn't connect to it because they're not relatable. But it's not their fault that they're not relatable. It's our
Yeah.
fault as siblings that we're not advocating as for it as much. We're telling inspirational stories, which is great, but like, are we
Yeah.
actually digging in and asking parents hard questions? Are we making them think harder thoughts? Are we making them aware of what siblings are actually going through? We're not. We're just expecting everyone to read our mind and read our emotions, and
Hmm.
it's not okay. So it's like, I love that you have your podcast, because I think that you talk to so many different siblings and you start understanding, like, hey, this one felt this way at this age, or this one
Hmm.
chose to go into this direction, and you have that great perspective. But now it's a matter of encouraging your hosts and sorry, not your hosts, your guests.
Yeah.
What are you going to do about it? Like, you know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
are you going to volunteer your time and talk? I'm talking about siblings twice this month, and even though I'm an autism home specialist, like, that's a
Hmm.
hot topic right now for a good reason. So it's going to be fun. But it's funny too, Charlene, is as I'm preparing for this presentation, all those emotions and feelings are coming back, and I sometimes have to take an emotional break from working on the presentation, and I
Yep.
realize that there's a lot of things I haven't healed from.
Yes.
It's
I
you
yeah,
know,
I feel that.
like when I was watching the Barbie movie, I'm like, yeah, that one time my sister threw away my favorite Barbie doll. Like, it just
Yep.
brought
Oh
back
no, yeah.
memories, and like
I
ugly memories.
Yeah. Oh no, yeah, there's just stuff and I'm like, oh great, like, I'm just like I'm like watching a movie up. Nope, that's just I just end up crying and I'm like, well, at least I can cry now. I've spent the running joke from my husband and me used to be like I didn't cry at anything or any movies or anything, but now I'm like I do and I'm like this is great. Like it means that it's getting better, which is always good. But
Yeah,
like yeah, just like living things in flashbacks is like it's so crazy because it's like those feelings and those flashbacks are so real. And
they're real.
I don't know if like regular siblings who like where they're all typical, I don't know if they experience those types of things or not. I feel like all of us as special needs siblings all can understand that, right? Because we'll just be having a conversation, we talk about a burger, and everyone can just immediately like snap back into the time when they're like their sibling like have a tantrum like at a McDonald's and whatever, right? Like
Yep.
it's such a different, yeah, like it's such a different
Well,
mental battle space or what, I don't know what the word for it would be.
there's a lot of and there's a lot of research with PTSD with parents and possibly
Mm,
siblings too.
yeah.
But it's like those emotions can come back. But this is where we get into mental health, right? Like mental health with our
Yes.
parents and as siblings. And this is another thing I cover in the home
Mm-hmm.
specialist side is what do you have in your home? What habits do you have to work on your mental health? Because
Oh, okay.
every time I go into a Denny's, I would prefer, well, not that I go into Denny's, but if I went into a Denny's, I would prefer not to think about the time that my sister ruined my experience for getting red
Yes.
velvet pancakes.
Exactly.
Like I would
Yep.
rather not,
Yeah.
but it's an association that we need to work on, like desensitizing, as we say in ABA, right?
Mm-hmm.
So there's just there's a lot out there when it comes to research and studies and inspirational stories, but like my god, who is talking about the hard shit? Like
Yeah.
who is talking and who is advocating about, like, yeah, this happened, but like here's the light of it, so it's not so much focusing on the tough times and the what we've been through. Yeah, it's our story and it's part of who we are, and as much as it's been hard, it's going to be the best blessing that we have because it's turned us into who we are as human beings,
Yeah.
or a sibling title. Like you're a special person and you might not realize it, but like when you're at work, you're probably one of the hardest workers in that room, or you're really good in working in teams because you've grown up working in teams. Like we
Yeah.
don't give gratitude enough for the things that we're still angry about. Like we have to show gratitude for
Yes.
that. And
Yeah.
I journaled last night for like 30 minutes. I'm like, I'm so angry that my dad left. Like I'm angry about this. But then I'm like, okay, I'm
Yeah.
grateful that he left because I would have never opened up my heart or my mind to like caring for Angie in an adult world. I wouldn't be doing
Yeah.
what I'm doing today if he didn't leave. You know what I mean?
Yeah. And
So
it's yeah, it's so hard and it's a thing with time too. I think definitely like I've like yeah, like just through time and perspective and like me moving away was not something I had ever envisioned like growing up like with my sister and like just like what how we grew up and stuff, but like even in me moving, I'm like, like that space and the time that it's given me to be able to actually like reflect on stuff and go see my therapist and have time to like actually like evaluate attributes that I have or character things or things I can work on, right? I'm it's so much like better for like I've had it's hard, but like I've have it every day that comes by. I'm like, okay, I can acknowledge that this was a bad thing at that time. It's still hard for me to process, but this good thing is coming out of it. And it takes so much like intention on our part to be able to not just have the flashback and go like, oh crap, like, I'm having this thing again. It's like, no, like, I'm gonna make a different choice and like, yes, I'm gonna go to this place and yes, I'm gonna have these bad feelings, but I can make a different choice and I can choose to look at this in a different perspective instead of just falling back to my old habits of like, oh crap, that was shitty.
yeah,
Yeah.
like a like you have to ask yourself if I took the identity of a special needs sibling out, who would I be?
Yeah.
And you would still be an incredible person because of your story, because those
Yeah.
lessons have taught you something. You know, you can look at your habits, but we have learned habits from our parents of pure exhaustion. Like, yeah, our parents
Yeah.
are fighters, but like, you know,
Uh,
my parents tried a lot of things with Angie growing up, and there were
mhm.
days where we just stayed home all weekend because they were exhausted. And
Yeah.
those are habits that, you know, I picked up in my
Yeah.
early 20s, and I'm like, I want to explore, I want to adventure, but it wasn't something that I was used to. So,
Mm, mhm.
you know, your lifestyle as a special needs sibling changes when you choose when you want it to change, not
Yeah.
the life circumstance, because
Yes.
yeah, there's only so much we can do if we don't drive ourselves, you know.
Yeah.
But if you want to understand autism more as a sibling, or you know, whatever your sibling's diagnosis is, what are you doing to learn more about it? I guarantee you're not going to learn about it in a book. You're going to learn about it more working with other people with that diagnosis, like Down syndrome, autism, or Prader-Willi syndrome, whatever the diagnosis is. Like,
Yeah.
involving yourself in the community is going to help you realize you're not alone. It's going to help you realize social media has been a huge game changer for
Mm.
connecting. Like, how many siblings have you came across with social media, and if social media wasn't around, would you have connected to them?
Oh, probably not. It's
Probably
yeah.
not, right? Me
Yeah.
either. Me either, unless it's
Yeah.
networking like locally, you know.
Yeah, but then
But
that's so yeah, but
also,
that's so different. Like I've met people around the world who have been on this podcast. I'm like, I would have 100% not met them were it not for the internet
right,
and social media. Just because you are yeah, the proximity wouldn't have existed. Like you and me have like a higher chance of meeting just due to physical proximity, but even then that's it's still like circles of people and all these other
it's
things
hard.
that are involved. Yeah.
But think about all the siblings that are coming up that are not on social media yet that will be. What type of content are we producing for them?
Yeah.
Like, what are we doing every day for the future generation of siblings? What are we doing today to connect? I don't know of a sibling conference or a sibling retreat. I know a crap ton of parent ones.
Yeah.
Where's a sibling retreat? Like,
Yeah.
you know, there's so much opportunity in this space for siblings to, one, niche down on something. Like, everybody tells me, you know, how do you niche down on autism and real estate and design? I'm like, because I'm a sibling, that's why. Like, as a joke, obviously. But like,
Yeah.
it's given that you have so much personal credibility as a sibling already without going to school,
Yes.
without going to school.
Yes. Yeah.
You have so much credibility to teach, to advocate, and to inspire people when you study something. Like, I know financial planners, or I know therapists, or I know, um,
Yeah.
you know, just other different professions that, because they're a sibling and because they're in that profession, they're like, we want to specialize in autism. We want to create a different experience because we have the personal experience and now we have the professional expertise. Like,
Yeah.
there's a lot of beauty in this, but
Very.
and a lot of the time, siblings will go into a profession and specialize in autism because it helps heal a lot of the parts of their story that nobody else did for them,
Yeah. Yeah, I've
you
met
know?
a very large yeah. I mean, we are also those people, but in slightly different in different categories. But yes, a lot of the people
Yeah.
I've met, we're all in that. Yeah, we're all in that because it's like it's yeah, because there's a healing that comes when you can go. This is my experience. You share it, but you're able to change that in other families, and you can see that it's making a difference, and that is so rewarding, and it's like it's not. Yeah, I remember the first time I talked to a mom where I was like part of like some panel and then there were questions and stuff and then so I said something and then we were talking and then I remember like my relationship with her and her family like it was so beautiful to like watch it change over time. Like there was just so many things I was like wow like and like like I helped as part of that, right? Like I was part of that change that their
Yeah.
family made and it was so amazing. Like it's one of the and it was very like early on in my like discovery, I guess, of like realizing that I had the power and the ability to be able to implement that kind of change like with like not being like you don't have like a master's or whatever, like it didn't matter, right? Because I can speak from my own life experience, and that's very real, and it's very like it's personal, and like it's other people have that experience, and it's like you can change it.
Yeah. Like teaching, for example, I'll tell families all the time, you said it right though. You said, I had this really special connection to a mom, and the mom's story is different from yours, but that mom might be trying to raise a special needs child and a sibling,
Yeah.
and you're helping with that dynamic. Like,
Yep.
so you choosing to do a podcast is a voice for not just siblings, but for parents, for other siblings, for educators, for therapists. I teach
Mm-hmm.
all the time to therapists, why involving a special needs sibling in your session is so detrimental to their sibling relationship,
Mm-hmm.
because we shouldn't put everything on the parent. Like, if we think about it, I think us siblings can do better with um, giving our parents a little bit of grace and patience, because
Yeah.
they were learning as they were trying to raise us. And that's hard. Like,
Yeah.
if you and I have a special needs child, like, we got this. You know what I
Yeah,
mean?
it's so
Like,
different.
we,
Yeah, we'll be
we
fine.
got this,
We are
right?
not the people you need to be concerned about.
Right. But like,
Yeah.
our parents already have their own generational trauma. Our parents
Yeah.
already have their own stories, their own backgrounds. And then you add a special needs child. So, as hard as it is, and sometimes I feel like my buttons are a little bit pressed more than other days,
Yes.
we have to like step back and realize, like, our parents did the best they can. My boyfriend says this all the time: people do the best they can with the tools that they have.
Yeah.
And I truly believe that parents are trying to evolve, and that generational story, that generational like struggle
Yeah.
is going to be impacted with siblings because
Yes.
of learning through our parents. Like, it's easy to be an observer and say, you could have done this better, but unless you're in it, can you really judge it? You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like, they're
Yeah.
trying to judge a relationship and then having to juggle a special needs child along with a sibling. Like, us siblings, we didn't take that much attention because we didn't need it. We were very self-sufficient, where our sibling needed more help, and we realized that as siblings. That's why we're the most selfless people, I think, in the world, and we
Yeah.
understand sacrifice better than most people. But that's a
100%.
gift that we have, you know. So I think parents are trying to do the best that they can, and when we have a parent be like, yeah, it's the same, it's not coming from a place of anger, but it's coming from a place of like, you think it's the same, but I would appreciate it if you just understood my perspective a little bit better, because
Yeah.
it's just a different upbringing. Like, there's a way we can advocate it, right? um
Yes.
with that. But what you're doing with your podcast is connecting. What you're doing with your podcast is educating and inspiring. And that's what we need more of. I don't think there's enough it's funny because I was trying to tag like special needs siblings accounts, and there's not very many.
Right.
There's not very many.
I hope that there's more like as the podcast like we as it keeps going and I keep meeting like more of all of us. I hope there's more. But I know that you have to go soon. Um but
No, you're good.
oh, we're good. Okay.
Yeah,
I
we're good.
wasn't sure. Just okay.
But if you want to get into like the last
We can,
question
or
or
you can
something, we
finish.
can do
Yeah,
that. Okay.
either. Yeah, I figured just in case. Yeah. Um.
Okay.
So I guess. No, yeah, we can. I mean, we can go on forever. Like, we should definitely just do.
Yeah,
We should do another segment just about like
for
generations and like
sure.
struggle. Yeah, we for sure should do that because that. Yeah, I'd be really interested to see like just your thoughts because it's there's so much with it. But I guess for this episode, do you have any words of encouragement you would like to share with our fellow siblings listening out there?
If the words of encouragement I would share to a sibling is that you have so much power within yourself, within your own story, to become a miracle. In my most recent TED Talk, I gave this speech about how inspiration without action is just a feeling, and inspiration with action is a miracle.
Mm-hmm.
And if siblings can take their story and inspire others, then they can create miracles in other people's lives.
Yeah. Yeah, it's awesome. It's yeah, and it feel yeah, the power is real. And it's such a good feeling, and like it's once you tap into it, there's a lot to, yeah, there's a lot that we have to give to the world in such a positive way. It's gonna be exciting that it's gonna be exciting once the more of us unlock it. Then
Yeah.
it's gonna be really good.
Yeah. Well,
Yeah.
thank you so much, Charlene, for having me on. And I know we can talk hours and hours and days
Yes.
about so many different topics. But, I just hope for anyone who's listening in your audience that they just tap into that power and use it, because we need more siblings to step up and be advocates.
Yeah, for sure. Thanks for being on.
Thanks, Charlene.
Thanks for listening to this episode of the Special Needs Sibling Podcast. If you're new here, please subscribe, rate, and review the show to help more siblings and friends find us. You can also support the podcast by donating on Ko-fi. That's Ko-fi. You can check out the link in the description for more info. If you're a special needs sibling, I hope you feel encouraged and validated in your journey. If you're not a sibling but know someone who is, I hope you learned a little bit more about what their life is like. That's all for now, and until next time, this is the Special Needs Sibling Podcast.